Hey, everybody. I am here with my amazing friend, Cara Sevier, and I cannot wait for her to tell you all of the brilliant things that are in her head. And look at that smile for those of you watching on YouTube. This is somebody I have had in my life for so long, and I am super pumped for you to meet her. So without further ado, my amazing friend, Cara.
Hi, everyone. Chelsea, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. As we talked before, that we've done this before, but this is a switcheroo here, so I'm excited to be your guest.
Welcome to Fueling Her. We're so glad you're here. Cara, please tell us about the amazing things that you do in your world. You are a nurse and plus 100. So
Yes,
tell us about that.
I love how you said that, plus 100. Yes, so I am Cara Sevier, the ultimate NURSEPreneur. And basically what that means is that I use my natural gifts of healing and product development, and I create brands that awaken, inspire, and heal the soul. So it sounds like a mouthful, but I'm able to utilize all my gifts and just feel really free in providing services and products that help to awaken individuals. So that's what I do.
You're incredible. So I want to dig right in because you have been contract nursing right on the front lines of the current healthcare situation. Let's talk about COVID-19. Let's really flesh it out. Can you share some insight, the facts, what we really need to know about what's going on?
Absolutely, absolutely. As you mentioned, I've been on the front lines, and I haven't been in the New York area, but still just working in Georgia, being at hospital settings and understanding just how important caring for ourselves, our patients, and how important that is. I do have some things to share. For instance, I had an opportunity to write an article in Georgia Nursing. So I'm going to kind of pull from that. I know we'll get to that a little later, but I want to pull some of those facts from there. As we know, it's important to mention facts versus opinion when it comes to this sort of topic. I know that's kind of going around in the news to make sure that we give, pertinent information. So first, I just want to start out by saying what COVID-19 is and kind of the history of the virus. COVID-19, also known as the coronavirus, really got its name back in 2019 when it was just being discovered as a novel or new virus. It is a RNA, this is getting kind of scientific, but it's an RNA single-strand virus, and it's very similar to influenza A and B, mumps, rubella, also SARS. So it originally was actually called SARS-CoV-2, and then we advanced that to COVID-19. And so taking that into 2020, we've all seen the headlines of just pretty much how it is ravishing the world, basically. So this is a world pandemic. And with that being said, we can look at the CDC as a real protocol, a place to look for information on how to take care of ourselves. The CDC, and this is as of April 18th as I'm pulling this information, which is a little bit later than when I wrote the article, but I wanted to give something current. The CDC is saying for most people, it's not going to be a virus that sickens people immediately, and it's most. So don't think that you can still go out at will and not take precautions, but just to keep in mind, don't have a fear-based way of looking at the virus, but understand that unless you have an underlying health condition, this virus likely will not give serious implications, but you don't know who you will come into contact who will be impacted by the virus, so still take precautions. Also, wearing a mask. Wearing a mask, I think in the very beginning, CDC was saying you don't have to wear a mask, and it changed to you do have to wear a mask. And so now I think that they are on the page of wearing a mask in public. And the important thing about that is making sure that your mask fits well. As nurses, we have to have a fit test, and that can be a little bit costly. So you may or may not want to go that route, but as long as you make sure that the mask covers your nose and then your mouth, you should be okay with that. Making sure that you wash your hands in public, making sure not to touch, regularly touch items. If you're in an elevator, maybe use an elbow or use something else to touch that particular object. Also, if you're sick, stay at home. I know it sounds kind of simple, but it is something that you want to consider. If you're sick, even if you're at home, you may have individuals around you who are not sick. So kind of quarantine yourself away from those individuals as much as you can to help prevent the spread of disease. And one of the things that I thought about was how back in nursing school, we talked about wash your hands, wash your hands. That hasn't changed.
Right.
Just using that 20-second hand washing rule is the #1 way of helping to prevent the spread of infection. And as recent as 2 days ago, CDC came up with 6 other additional symptoms to look for regarding COVID-19. And those are chills, and then repeated chills with shaking. Also, you want to seek medical attention if you have pain, especially chest pain. And those of us in the medical industry know that that could be an indicator of a heart attack. So if you feel that, please reach out and get immediate medical attention. Also, if we're looking at loss of taste or smell, that's something that seems kind of minute, but it is a symptom now that CDC is recognizing for COVID-19, as well as headaches, sore throat, and muscle pain. So those are the 6 new symptoms of COVID-19.
Oh my goodness. And what a broad range of symptoms they are, but so important because at this point, for me as a natural healthcare provider, I don't let people in my office if they have any kind of symptoms of something infectious. And it's unfortunate that that's the current situation, but it is for the protection of ourselves and our community, making sure that there is a decrease in the community spread of this virus. I'm so glad that you mentioned in particular the chest pain, because I was reading an article in JAMA, the Journal of the American Medical Association, a few weeks ago, just about how undiagnosed and undertreated heart issues have become since this pandemic started because resources are being used elsewhere. So it's definitely important for people to understand the 4 major symptoms of stroke and of a heart attack, and knowing basic CPR, because you don't know if you're going to have to help somebody. This is not the time you want to be doing CPR, but you know what? You can still save a life.
That's right. That's right. And I think now with the new standards for CPR, we're focusing a lot on compressions. So that is helpful, as far as COVID-19 goes. And there was something you mentioned, Chelsea, about chest pain and stroke-like symptoms. Ironically, people are staying away from hospitals. So people are at home, and some people are being interviewed, and they're actually being very open about the fact that they feel if they go into the hospital, they are more at risk for getting or contracting COVID-19. So there are people who are staying at home who have some of these chest pain symptoms or stroke-like symptoms, but we still encourage people to go and seek medical attention.
Yeah, absolutely. I am the first person to say, hey, look, you know what? That symptom sounds like something a little bit scarier than just what I see or what you should be able to handle by yourself. Don't.
Right.
Seek medical attention if you
Right.
have symptoms of chest pain or shortness of breath. That's basic, whether it's related to COVID or otherwise. That's so
Exactly.
Yeah, so tell us more about your article in Georgia Nursing. I love that you mentioned the fact that, basics from nursing school, washing your hands, but so many people are learning what real hand washing really is now that it's 2020. But tell us more about that article. You went into some really great details with that.
Right. So the article really was an excellent opportunity to get on the front line of COVID-19. I wrote the article back on March 5th. And at that point, we were really just starting to see a burgeoning of cases worldwide and inside the US. And as I mentioned, CDC at that point was not really recommending that you wear a mask just yet. They wanted to kind of see how things would evolve. And so hand washing was one of the major protocols to really follow. And definitely, I talked about how you can bolster your immune system by doing some things such as proper diet, eating a lot of fruits and vegetables. And I want to make a disclaimer about not really getting specific on what source of foods to eat. That is something that you do want to discuss with a medical professional, such as Chelsea or your medical physician, just due to some allergies that you may have. So whereas in I might be able to eat more nuts and seeds, someone may have a nut or seed allergy. So you want to make sure that you talk about what is healthy for you with your healthcare provider. Also getting the right amount of rest. Still, there is research that talks about your immune system is healthier when you get proper amounts of rest. And for everybody, it differs. And you don't want to get too much rest, but then you don't also want to get not enough rest. So kind of that happy medium. And when you do that, science is indicating that you can have an enhanced immune system that can help you fight off a lot of infections, not to mention COVID-19. So that's pretty much how the article how it goes. I did include a lot of medical references. Georgia Nursing has just the APA style format. So it took a lot of research, but I was able to learn in the very beginning stages of COVID-19, a lot about the history of the virus. You know, we all know that the reported cases started in Wuhan, China. And just like I said, the history of the virus itself, what it was termed initially, and then what it changed to. So it was an excellent opportunity. So thank you, Georgia Nursing.
They're just such a wonderful organization. They do so much for the nursing community. I'm glad we have them as a resource.
Absolutely.
And thank you for letting me know about the amazing things that Georgia Nursing does. I'm a huge fan. But I want to go back to what you were talking about immune system health. So I love that you emphasized that it's important to take care of your health. You know, healthcare providers in general are so inundated with symptom treatment that there's not always that opportunity, whether because of insurance or because of visit time or because of just resources in general, for your healthcare provider, especially usually your primary medical doctor, to talk about diet and lifestyle. So you started a company with a very good friend of yours called Nurses Forever Fit. Can you tell us more about that and how that plays into the lifestyle piece?
Absolutely. Nurses Forever Fit is a nurse advocacy platform where we really support nurses in promoting self-care. And people would think that, oh, you know, you're a nurse, so, you know, you should be able to take care of yourself, you take care of others. And ironically, it's not that easy. Actually, research indicates that caregivers are least likely to take care of themselves. So we saw an opportunity to come together and provide a safe place for nurses to work out and to network. And as we talked earlier about how COVID-19 has changed some things, we are primarily waiting to see what's going to happen with this whole shelter in place, and Georgia being one of the burgeoning states to come off of the quarantine, on how we can serve the nursing community better, you know, as things move forward. But Nurses Forever Fit, we hit the ground running. We have been able to network with Georgia Nurses Association, another awesome institution that helps nurses in the state of Georgia. And just being able to worldwide share our vision of how nurses can practice self-care and advocacy for nurses has been a real pleasure for us.
I love that. I love the work that y'all are doing, because especially now more than ever, healthcare providers, especially nurses, need that self-care. They need that immune health, because when you are in contact with symptomatic patients all the time, your own health has to be the priority. You have to make sure you're taking care of yourself first, because if you get sick, that means then your patients are more at risk and you're more at risk of contracting something from them.
Absolutely, that's true.
So important. So it's been a couple weeks since you wrote the article for Georgia Nursing. Have any of your opinions changed about COVID since then, or have they stayed the same, and why?
I would say, since the article was written back on March 5th, and as I said, we were kind of on the forefront of that, I just would say that my awareness has expanded. I really focused on the history of the virus. I focused on how to work with your immune system and enhance it overall, and just gave some resources for the virus, because I kind of had a perception that things would expand and be foregoing for a period of time. So I left it open, actually. I said, you know, let's just present this information. Let's kind of get on the foreground of everything and show what we have now, but then I left it open for CDC to make continuous recommendations. And so I would say that my awareness has expanded, but my viewpoint is still the same, especially when it comes to taking care of yourself and hand washing and all of those things that we spoke of earlier.
Beautiful. So you mentioned the CDC in particular. Are there any other sources of information that you really trust right now? Because as you said, having credible information and not listening to the media are very important. It's important to be informed, but it's also important to make sure you're getting information from the right sources.
Exactly. And it's very important. And I just want to hone in on that of the information that you get. Unfortunately, I know we saw in the news where President Trump had made some comments about certain medications and things of that nature. And some people, I guess, kind of went out and tried those and didn't have favorable results. So we do have to say that you take in information, but at the same time, you have to verify that. So I'm always going to include medical professionals. You also want to keep up with organizations such as the World Health Organization and the CDC. And I speak of those two because those are the organizations on the front line of diseases, and they will have information that includes research that we can actually say has verified whether or not a treatment has the potential to be effective or not. So along with the CDC, published medical journals, I know, Chelsea, you mentioned JAMA, but doing my research for the article, I was able to come across several articles, and it makes sense when you have that medical research to back it up. I like to also deal with natural remedies as well. So that's a
Tell us
source.
about that.
Yes. There's a source that I like to look into as well. We do have to always check the resources for instance, if you're Googling something, you want to make sure that you can verify on multiple sites if that is an actual natural remedy or that it doesn't have side effects that would not be beneficial for yourself. So for me, like I said, I usually start with just a research of, for instance, immune boosting food or immune boosting supplements, and then I will further educate myself on what are the benefits, what are the side effects, if any. And if someone is listening or watching the podcast, make sure that if you're taking medications that you do not compound the medications and the supplements, because those two can work together and either can be beneficial or not beneficial. So for myself, I don't take any prescription medications. So pretty much I have the leisure to, if I need to try something or just enhance my overall well-being with my immune system, I can say, well, let me try, for instance, and again, this is just something I'm going to throw out, but let's just try dandelion root, or let's just try such and so as a tea. And then I would try that and then see if that's beneficial. But research and being aware and using my medical resources are what I like to do.
I love that. As a general side note, for those of you out there who are taking prescription medications and considering adding some nutritional supplements, your pharmacist is always the best person to talk to regarding possible drug interactions. That is their job. That is what they do. They go into the chemistry of that, and they are the best authority, sometimes even more than your healthcare provider or even your primary medical doctor. So be sure to pay attention with that. So speaking of nutritional supplements and natural things that are helpful, you have developed some amazing things to help people, especially women, especially nurses, get through their day and boost their health. Can you tell me about that?
Yes, and thank you for shedding light on that. As I mentioned with who I am and what I do, I really love to create products that really enhance the soul, whether it be with energy or with your motivation or overall well-being. So I did create the AM PM Shift Energizing Spray, and that is a natural ingredient spray that helps to gently boost the energy. You can use it day or night if you're on any prescription medication or drinking coffee or any other supplementation. You can use this product. It's a topical spray, and you can shake up the bottle. You can spray it either on your body, on your clothes, your face, your arms, even in the air around you, and still have a beneficial effect of your energy levels being enhanced. That's my first product actually that I created for my brand, The Art in Prescription. But then I have added since that time the Well 2O, which is crystal enhanced water. I'm very excited about that one. As I said, it's a new product, but just taking my research about water and the positive effects on the body and how water is intelligent, water has a memory, water is very absorptive. So whatever you introduce into the water can actually, the water takes on the personality or properties of that. And so being able to create a product where I use crystal therapy, and I'll just show you these two. These are not the actual ones that are in the water, but this is an example of crystals that I use. Bless you, Chelsea.
Thank you. Tell
So,
us about these crystals.
absolutely. This is amethyst, and this is clear quartz. Clear quartz will amplify any crystal that it comes into contact with. And so the crystal enhanced water actually uses the power of these two crystals. My amethyst is very good for overall well-being and healing and nourishing and just motivating. It's a very gentle energy, but very powerful in how it helps to heal and actually stimulate the body to heal itself, actually. So when you introduce these two crystals into water, water takes on the healing properties of these crystals, and then you have my brand Well 2O.
I
So
love that.
thank
Oh, I
you.
love that. For those who don't know, crystals have vibrational energy, just like everything in the world, but because they're arranged a particular way, it amplifies that effect. So that's what makes them so valuable. And if you're curious about what Kara's talking about in regard to the memory and the properties that water takes on, there's this amazing experiment by a Japanese scientist named Masaru Emoto. And just look up Japanese snowflake experiment. It is really fascinating to see what can change based on the power and intention of our words. So Kara, dive into that a little bit more for us. Tell us about how water takes on those properties and why, the importance of words and affirmations are so important.
Absolutely. Well, we all know that our body is over 70% water. And I'm so glad you brought up Dr. Emoto. When I came across his research, I was fascinated by it. And when you look at that snowflake experiment, you see how he introduces words to the snowflakes. So for instance, a high vibration word such as love, happy, joy, peace, bliss, if you imprint that word from an energetic standpoint onto the snowflake, and I will say water, because when you freeze that water, it takes on different formations. And so with positive words, the formations were beautiful geometric shapes, right? But when you took negative words, such as fear, doubt, hate, shame, lack, even, when you introduce words like that into water and you froze the water, when you looked at the appearance that it had under a microscope, it was very distorted, just not as beautiful as the positive words. So imagine if you are saying words that are low vibration or carrying low vibration emotions in your body, that water that you have in your body is interacting with that energy that you're giving it, whether it be a crystal or whether it be a thought or a word. You are changing actually the chemical makeup of your body.
Powerful. People don't even
It is.
realize, but what you say to yourself carries weight. So, especially, I would assume, if you're someone who tends to carry some of those negative emotions around or just be in a negative environment, this water would be really beneficial for them.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's just part of the healing process that I love to do. We talk about just how nursing and how I'm kind of moving into more of the well-being and holistic type of way of looking at illnesses. And I just believe that it really starts with the mind. It starts with awareness. And that is the platform that I have now to be able to share information. Even though I didn't know about Dr. Emoto's research, coming upon that a few years ago and being able to develop a product such as Well 2O, it really is heartwarming to me to be able to help in the way that I can.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Now, you do a lot in terms of helping. Talk to us about what inspired a nurse to become a Reiki practitioner.
Well, that story goes back to being 8 years old and actually playing the harp from age 8 to 18. Um, I loved the sound. So we talk about frequency. Frequency can be in sound as well.
Hmm.
And I was just enamored by just how the harp sounded. It was so magical, so ethereal. And I didn't realize that I was probably being healed by that, by the vibrations, by the sound, but I just knew how
Yes.
I felt better and just on a different realm when I would play the harp and listen to that particular music. And so I mentioned from 8 to 18, and then I, went away to college and I stopped playing the harp at that time. But then I was able to take a Tai Chi course. One of my psychology instructors taught Tai Chi. And I've always loved the Eastern medicine and Eastern way of thinking about things. And so I took the Tai Chi course, and I just thought that it was wonderful. I felt good, and my body was energized. And I think about what 20 years or so later, I started having my own struggles with energy. Working as a nurse, Chelsea, you and I talk about caregivers and our energy just being pulled, and we're drained, and because we give and we give and we give. And I just wasn't putting enough back into myself. And I was just super tired, just not very productive outside of being able to muster up enough energy for my 12-hour shifts. But that was all I was able to do, was just keep giving, and I wasn't giving to myself. And I came upon Reiki, and I realized internally that this is what I need. This is what I've been looking for, a way to replenish my energy centers, which are called chakras. And I realized not only do I want to have Reiki treatments, I want to be able to provide that to other people.
Ah, that can't be said enough. So many caregivers get stuck in that caregiver fatigue, and you don't have to be a healthcare provider for that to apply to you.
Absolutely.
You could have just children in general, a difficult spouse, an a child with a disability, or an aging parent. I mean, that's applicable to everybody. So, what made you become aware of those energy blocks? How did you overcome that?
Well, I'm an intuitive being, and so I
Yes.
knew something. I knew something was wrong, and I just said to myself, I have to find out what is going on. I'm tired all the time, and I just can only go to work. And one of the things, these are kind of easy fixes if someone is also struggling with the same thing. Look at the type of work that you're doing. How do you feel when you're at work? How do you feel when you go home? Do you have a method to replenish yourself, whether it be a bath or a massage, or, as we're talking about Reiki therapy or exercise? At that time, I wasn't doing any of that. And my food, my diet was terrible. So I know that contributed to it a lot. I ate a lot of fast food. I didn't get enough rest, and I was working the night shift. So I'm going to do a disclaimer. I know that we appreciate all of our healthcare heroes who are working the front lines and working night shift. Everybody, we appreciate that.
Yes.
But in my personal opinion, I just believe that your body heals itself better when you are sleeping at night and awake during the daytime. It's called a circadian rhythm, and being just on par with the sun and the moon. And I know that everybody is different. And so you have to, of course, approach this topic, with your family and with
Delicately.
yourself on what works best for you. But for me, I found that working the night shift was not the answer. I found that the diet that I was eating was not correct. And then just working those long 12-hour shifts, me not having a way to replenish myself wasn't working. So again, I just kept searching for the answer. And when you seek, you will find. And so I just found a way to come into direct alignment with Reiki therapy. And actually, through my friend here, Chelsea, there was an event that I went to that Chelsea recommended. And then I met a Reiki practitioner there. And all things happen for a reason. And so I was able to take that journey of becoming a Reiki practitioner.
It's so great when we can use our friends to be even better.
Yes,
Oh my
yes,
goodness. And,
yes.
that it just reminds me of how really cool the universe is, and it can start with an email. Connection can start with an email. Unblocking yourself, creating something new can start with what feels like a seemingly
Mhm.
small, mundane thing that we do every day that blossoms when you
Right.
feed it the right energy.
Right, exactly. And that's why it's really good to have good energy around you, and energy in the forms of good people, eating good food, going outside and getting some sun. It's very important. Walking in nature, taking a swim and things of that nature. It's a wonderful thing to interact with positive energy.
It sure is. We have to recharge our batteries. I say all the time, and it plays on repeat on the podcast, but your phone doesn't run if your battery is dead, and neither do
Right,
you. So that
right.
is vital, just vital. So I'm sure you hear all kinds of interesting things from people in the world. What are some misconceptions that you hear about your work and that you'd love to just be able to tell the world, hey, that's not how this goes?
Oh, goodness. Let's try to pinpoint one um, that I hear. A lot of times, because we're so caught up in a world of what we see, sometimes the unseen is not given as much credit. And so I hear things such as, does it really work? Is it real? When I talk about the energy centers in the body being called chakra systems, and how there are organs related to each of the seven main chakra systems, and how when you treat those with energy, how you are actually energizing and just giving a great safe place for those organs to become nourished. People have a hard time believing that. And I think that's one of the main myths. We do have an Eastern way of thinking about medicine and health and healing, but then there's also the Western or allopathic way. And both, I think, hold their place in society as a need for, various illnesses and situations. But when we talk about prevention, I really hold in high regard just the Eastern way of thinking about how to take care of the body. There's so much we can learn from our Eastern brothers and sisters, in African just tribes that have known for many, many years how to care for the body. So everything is energy. And I think that people may mistake like a tree or even a car or a phone, even though we talk about the battery, but the phone itself as energy. People don't think that these items are energy as well. And you're constantly interacting with energetic items and beings all day long. And a lot of times, just like you have to unplug your computer sometimes to unplug your phone, you have to unplug yourself as well. And just get away, take a break, replenish, shut down, and then just rest, and then, power back up, and then go about, your mission.
Absolutely true. It's funny because so many people, especially in the scientific community, are love to jump on what I will define as less researched topics. That's a good way of
Mm-hmm.
putting it. But what's funny is that we know that everything is energy from basic physics. So if you're out there and you're curious about this topic, there's an amazing documentary called What the Bleep Do We Know? Yes, that is literally the title. And it really dives into the quantum physics of our interaction with our world and kind of creates a bridge between what I would consider the scientific or the traditional scientific, quote unquote, and more esoteric scientific realms. I think it's really important to draw attention to the fact that the way we label things and label thought systems in science and health and what's considered Western medicine and Eastern medicine are exactly that. They're labels, because at the end of the day, our bodies are still the same and our bodies don't know the difference. But we have decided, oh, we're going to label things this way. We're going to label this the heart and the lungs and the spleen and the liver, and this is the endocrine system. These are how our hormones interact, versus, okay, this is my energetic body, and these are my meridians, and these are my chakras. They're just labels. So
Exactly.
neither is right or wrong, because we didn't create our bodies, but we created our labels. So I think it's really important to acknowledge these are just systems of classification, and they are equally valid. It's just about your interpretation and how you use it for yourself.
Exactly. Very beautifully said, I must say.
Thank you, my friend. I think it's also valuable to understand that there are healing things that have been around for thousands of years, and they have value for a reason. They've been around
Yeah.
for a reason. So,
Right.
Cara, if you had a billboard, what would you put on that billboard? What would you want the whole world to know about life, about healing, about yourself? What would you say?
I would say, wake up.
Yes!
Wake up. And I say that because before anyone can understand anything about the world around them, you have to understand and know who you are. And you do that by waking up, by becoming aware of you. Like, okay, for myself, I know that I need a certain amount of sleep. I know what are the foods that work best for me from a digestive standpoint. I know what clothing looks better on me. I know how my mornings are the best time to kind of get that clear information, to move forward with my day. So wake up, as I'm driving around and when I'm going to work out and heading into the hospital for a shift, I kind of look around and sometimes I see people and they literally look asleep.
Yes.
They're going at a very slow pace, not even what the speed limit is suggesting, or they're buried in their phone, and it's just like they're missing so much around them, so much that they could be in tune with. And I would just say, wake up, just wake up.
Brilliant. I love that. Well, you and I could talk about this all day, and we probably will. I'm sure we'll do another something at some point in the near future. But is there anything that I should have asked you that I didn't think to ask? We've talked about so many things over the years. Is there anything else that you just say, have to make sure this gets out there to the world today?
Chelsea, that's an excellent question. Because we live in a world that is ever changing, and I believe you made a post on this quote recently. The only thing consistent is change, and I think that what I would encourage people to do is just to get connected with me, get connected with a community that is bringing information that can help you to become the best person that you can be. When we wake up tomorrow, something would have changed overnight. Even within the next 30 minutes, something's going to happen. There's going to be an update on, COVID-19 or update in the community around me, what's happening, what's changing. And I would say just get connected. Fortunately, social media makes that very easy. You're able to log on and see what I was talking about maybe a year ago, maybe 2 years ago. How has that changed? Who am I today? Who do you see, before you? And just staying abreast of what's going on, in the community around you. But I would say just get connected with me.
Yes. Well, how can we connect to you? Where can we find you?
Absolutely. We talked about Nurses Forever Fit, my co-founded brand, and we can be found on Facebook, Nurses Forever Fit, as well as Instagram at Nurses Forever Fit. And then for myself, I am Cara Sevier in most places. So Facebook, Cara Sevier. On Twitter, the Cara Sevier. On Instagram, the Ultimate Nursepreneur. And on LinkedIn, Cara Sevier RN.
Beautiful. Well, we will put all the links in the show notes and make sure everybody can find you. Thank you for sharing your amazing self. I just adore you, and we'll have to do this again soon.
Thank you so much for having me as a guest on your wonderful podcast. I'm so proud of you, so excited for you. It's a pleasure being here today with you.
Thank you, my friend. Well, everybody, this is another episode of Fueling Her, a woman's guide to wellness. Listen on Spotify and tell your friends, and we'll see you next time.